Right, it's the 25th of September today, and I've come down the allotment to see what I need to do, and today is the day that I am going to harvest the butternut squash, amongst a lot of other things, but I'll show you those as I go along. Now, you know when your butternut squash need to be harvested because the leaves start to lose all their green, they start to go blotchy and they start to go brown. And it usually happens in September through to October. Make sure you get your butternut squash into a frost-free place before any frost comes along in your area. Now, I'm just going to show you how to harvest the butternut squash, and then I'll show you what harvest I have got this year. They've done really well. I've just pulled one up or cut one off. Also, another way to tell that they're ready to be harvested is the stem up here. It's not green anymore and it started to go brown, so the butternut squash won't grow. Now, I don't know if you can see, you most probably saw that one there and that one there. Now, these are splits because as they were growing, we all of a sudden had a load of rain and they just swelled up. So that's what's caused those. So any that I've got that have got these markings on, I will use them first because it means that this is like a soft spot and it will sort of go mouldy here first. So any that are damaged ever so slightly, make sure you use first. But I will just show you how to harvest your butternut squash. Right, now it's not a difficult thing to do, there's nothing technical. You just find the butternut squash, you find the stem, don't cut right down the bottom, give as much of the stalk as you can, keep that, so cut it off. It can be quite tough sometimes, so just be aware. So that's another one. As you can see, this one's split as well, just because we've had so much rain recently. And then it's been beautiful and dry, but hopefully these will keep for a little while. I'll keep them in the fridge and use them quickly, but I'll just harvest the rest and then I'll show you how many I've got. Right, well, I've just finished harvesting them. I've harvested 20, yes, 20, but I'd already picked one, so this year I've got 21 butternut squash. They vary from, this is my little baby one, okay, about the size of my palm. And then I've got a little one like this, you know, but they're the two smallest ones. We then go up to sort of, you know, what I would class as proper size ones. And so what did I say, 20, so that's 2, 18. So 16 are normal size. 2, however, well, this is the second largest. Okay, so that's the little baby one. That's the second largest. And, sorry. This is my largest butternut squash. Now, I know size isn't everything, whichever way up you would like to put it. I was told previously that I stroked them too much. Sensible, Claire. So yes, they've done incredibly well. I'm sure you won't find one looking like that in the shop, will you? So never mind. But yes, they have done fabulously well, and I am incredibly pleased with them this year. What I did to make them so huge, I really don't quite know. I sowed them when I normally did. I gave them lots of manure. I gave them the seaweed fertiliser. I sowed them out in middle of June. Gave them space and they just absolutely loved it. So hopefully I'll try and repeat the same thing next year. So there we are, ranging from the little baby one to the rather rude one. So we'll leave the butternut squash and I'll move on to something else in a minute. Right, now the next job for today is to harvest the last of the French beans. They've done incredibly well this year, but as you can most probably see, they're actually I've got a load of black fly on here. They've just suddenly appeared over the last couple of weeks, but that's fine, it doesn't matter, because the beans are finished. But if you look, the leaves are losing all their green, there's no more flowers coming on. There's the odd one or two at the top, but they're not really going to do anything, and it's getting too cold actually now for them. So I'm going to remove these, get rid of these, and take the structure down. Now, don't pull the whole plant out. What you need to do is you need to cut off the plant and leave the roots in, because the roots have nitrogen which will then go back into the soil, and if you plant brassicas on here the following year, that nitrogen will help with the brassicas. So when they've given off all their nitrogen, the roots will just break down and then they will disappear. So I will do that now, and if you find any spare beans as you go along, then just harvest them if they haven't gone too far, and take them home. So I'll just show you where to cut them off down the bottom. Okay, so just cut about 1 inch above the soil, just snip them off like that and leave those 2 bits. I mean, you can cut down a little bit further if you want, it's entirely up to you, but just leave the base and the roots of the plant in there, just so that all that nitrogen can be released and go back onto the soil. And then just remove all the rest of it, pull the sticks up so that it's all clear. So I'll get on with doing that now. I do have some nasturtiums in here as well, so I'll just have to be aware of those, but I'll show you the before and then I'll show you the after. So these are the beans before I chop them down, and there is after all the beans are out. Oh, looks quite naked now and bare. You just got the nasturtiums here in the front and some up there, and then a beautiful tall sunflower which is still going, but the beans are up. They did incredibly well this year, so I'm very pleased with them. Right, I've moved over to another area, and this is another area where I planted a selection of squashes. I got a packet from W. Robinson, and it was basically a lovely packet of a mixture of all different types of squash, which is brilliant. You've got a couple of seeds of each one. So it means that, okay, you don't know where the seeds are coming from and you don't exactly know what you're getting, but if you want, you know, one of this plant and one of that plant and one of that plant, you just buy this one packet of seeds. So and then it's a nice surprise when they grow. So I've got some here, and they're actually on the edge as well, because they're losing their green, they're going all blotchy, so they're not going to grow much more. So I will look through this. I've got some lovely ones to harvest. I've also got a couple of butternut squash in here as well, so we can add that to the rest of them, so that's another 2. But there's some little patty pans here, there's some swan-necked squash, so I will just clear this bed and show you what I've got. Okay, now I've got a couple of fairly small pumpkins in there, which I'm going to leave because they're still growing, so they can stay out. But I've just harvested these, a couple of small butternut squash, some petty pans, our lovely swan-necked squash, which I think is just gorgeous. I love those, and then a little round one as well. So I've had loads of these this year and loads of these as well. There are some more growing on the plant, but they're really tiny, and the leaves are all starting to go, so they're not going to get any bigger, so I wouldn't leave them in. But this is a nice selection. These are lovely roasted in the oven, and just then cut and eat, so they're really nice. So that's those. There's a few more left in there. There's a few more swan-necked squash, which I'm going to leave for a little bit longer, just to see if they get any bigger. I'll give them a few weeks. If they don't, then I'll pull the plant up. But I think I'd better go and look at the beetroot now. Now, when you come to harvest beetroot, whatever size you want to harvest it from, if you want to let it get really, really big, then that's fine. It just takes longer to cook. So it's not like you've got to wait for leaves to go brown or, you know, it to get to a certain size. Whatever size. Now I usually pick them when they're about that sort of size, you know, slightly bigger than a golf ball, because I find that they cook in about 20 minutes. I tend to boil them, then take the skins off, and then I'll freeze them whole so that you can just take them out, and you know, I personally just prefer them that way. The way to test whether they're the size you want is just to rub your finger around the top. I'll show you how to do that, and then you just grab the leaves and just pull. So I'll just show you how I know that the beetroot are the size that I want. Right, so all I do is I go along the line, and when I come to a beetroot, I just hold the leaves, run my finger around, and if it's the size that I want, that's a good size for me. Then I just grab hold of the leaves and just gently pull it up, and that is about the size that I like to harvest them at. If they're slightly bigger, it doesn't matter. If they're slightly smaller, okay. So that's one. I'll go to another one. Now that one feels quite small, so I'll just cover that one back up with soil, and I'll gradually work my way along the line. And the ones that are left, because they've now been given a bit more room, give them another couple of weeks and then they'll get bigger. So it's not like they won't grow. So that's quite a nice one there. Let's just pull that bit of grass up. Okay, so we'll just pull that one up there, and I'll gradually go along the line, and then I've got another line here, and I'll just check them all. Sometimes they grow on the side, like that one. Okay, it was just growing that way instead of that way, but that doesn't matter. So I'll continue going along, and I'll harvest a load more, and then I'll show you what I've got. Okay, well that is a lovely selection of beetroot, but as I say, it's your own personal preference as to what size you would like. Now the rest of them, I'll give them another, I mean, during the height of the summer I would suggest checking every couple of weeks, but now we're into autumn, I might leave it 3-4 weeks before I see if there are any more ready, because obviously their growth slows down when it gets a little bit cooler. But these are great, so I will give them a wash. I will boil them until they're soft, which will most probably be about 20 minutes, just like potatoes. You put a knife in, if it goes in easy then they're done. Leave them to cool completely, then just peel the skins off, and then stick them in the freezer whole, and then when you need them just take them out a couple of hours before and just let them defrost. Remember, you can eat the leaves as well. They're absolutely lovely in salad, but if they're marked, I would suggest not, because they've got some little bugs on them. But if they look very nice leaves and they look nice and clean, then please, by all means, have them in a salad. So that's my beetroot there, which I'm very proud of. So that'll keep Mark going for a little while, and I really need to go and pick some more kale, because I did promise the chickens that I would bring some home for them. Now here is the kale. It has grown absolutely marvellously this year. It's dwarf kale, it's not really tall kale, but then the chickens don't really mind. The dwarf kale is really quite nice. It's lovely because it doesn't get too big. So it doesn't sort of take over. I have grown the really tall kale before, and personally I find this one is much nicer. Now all I'm going to do, you'll need to keep it covered up. There are a few little whitefly on here, but as the chickens are eating it, it doesn't really matter. When you harvest this, harvest the bottom leaves first, and then new ones come from the top. Okay, it will just keep going on and on and on and on until it's had enough, but it may well keep going until sort of spring next year, which will be great. So because the chickens are so good, I tend to take them home, about 10 leaves every time I'm down here. So when you harvest the leaves, just get hold of a leaf and just push it down, okay, and then it will just rip off, okay, very, very easily. It's a very prolific plant, and it will just keep going and going and going. So from the bottom, grab a leaf by the bottom of the stem and just pull it down, and it will come off. So I'll get a nice little bunch of this for the chickens. 2, 4, 6, 8. I usually give them 10. And I will, when I go home in a bit, I will give it to them. And they will go completely mad for it because they absolutely love it. So that's for the chickens, okay, as a special treat because they're so good. Now, one last thing I'm going to show you before I go are my cauliflowers. Now, I've got in the other bed, I've got some normal white cauliflowers, but here, to the side of me here, I have purple cauliflowers. Yes, you've heard me correctly, purple cauliflowers. They're called graffiti. I tried to grow some last year. They did grow, but then I went away on holiday and then they all went to seed, so that was no good. But this year they seem to have been a little bit slower, which is great. Whether they keep their purple when you boil them, I don't know. I would imagine if you roasted the cauliflower, then it would, but I will try that and I will let you know. So some of them have kind of lost their nice little curve and they've started to go up a bit, but to be honest with you, it doesn't matter. So I'm just going to show you those, and I will harvest some to take home. There is a pumpkin, I think, working its way around them, so I'm just going to have to be aware of that. But I'm really quite proud of these. They look very nice. They've done incredibly well this year. So let me show you. Now, you need to make sure that you keep these under some netting, otherwise the birds and goodness knows what else will get to them. So it obviously makes weeding a little tricky. So let's just remove the netting, and under here, believe it or not, is a purple cauliflower. Can you see it? I hope you can see it. I am very proud of that. Now, when you harvest your cauliflower, cut it down. Well, you might as well, to be honest with you, you might as well cut it right down just above the soil level. She says, but it's really quite thick. So make sure you have a good pair of secateurs. Okay, so let's just remove this, because the leaves I can then give to the chickens. Okay, let me just cover this up. I'll leave the root in there until I dig the bed over. But if I peel all of these back, and hopefully you can see in there, there's so many leaves, I need more space, more hands. Hopefully you can see a lovely little purple cauliflower. Now I will take these leaves off, the outer leaves off, and I will tie those up and give those to the chickens because they'll love those. And then I will just be left with my cauliflower. Hopefully no creepy crawlies in there, but do check thoroughly before you eat it, just in case there are. If you have them netted, you shouldn't have a problem. I can't see any. It's not one creepy crawly that you should worry about, you know, one caterpillar. It's if you find half a caterpillar, because you think, oh dear, where's the other half gone? So one caterpillar is not a problem, it's half that is. So the others have kind of gone a little bit high, but they're just not curved like that. But I will harvest those, and they're perfectly okay to eat. They haven't gone to seed yet, but give them another week or so and they most probably will, so I better get those ones up quick. So I'll do those, and then that will be it for today, because I've now got to go home, I'm afraid. I would love to stay here a bit longer, but I can't, I'm afraid. So that's what I got up today on the allotment in just 2 hours. It's surprising what you can do when you put your mind to it. So I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.